Hey friends, this is Mrs. Lynn. Welcome to another virtual story time with me and my reading buddy, Brown Sugar. Now, if you have a reading buddy that you would like to share this story with, you can hit pause on the video and go grab him or her. Today, we're going to be reading a story called Rosie Revere, Engineer. It's written by Andrea Beaty and illustrated by David Roberts. It's about a little girl named Rosie who seemed really quiet during the day, but who has all sorts of ideas of inventions at night. Let's go into the story and find out what she builds. This is the story of Rosie Revere, who dreamed of becoming a great engineer. In Lila Greer's classroom at Blue River Creek, young Rosie sat shyly, not daring to speak. But when no one saw her, she peeked in the trash for treasures to add to her engineer's stash. And late at night, Rosie rolled up her sleeves and built in her hideaway under the eaves. Alone in her attic, the moon high above, dear Rosie made gadgets and gizmos she loved. And when she grew sleepy, she hid her machines far under the bed where they'd never been seen. When Rosie was young, she had not been so shy. She worked with her hair swooping over one eye and made fine inventions for uncles and aunts, a hot dog dispenser and helium pants. The uncle she loved most was zookeeper Fred. She made him a hat to keep the snakes off his head, from parts of a fan and some cheddar cheese spray, which everyone knows keep the pythons away. And when it was finished, young Rosie was proud. But Fred slapped his knees and he chuckled out loud. He laughed till he wheezed and his eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who stood there embarrassed, perplexed, and dismayed. She looked at the cheese hat and then looked away. "Oh, I love it," Fred hooted. "Oh, truly I do." But Rosie Revere knew that could not be true. She stuck the cheese hat on the back of her shelf, and after that day kept her dreams to herself. And that's how it went until one autumn day, her oldest relation showed up for a stay. Her great great Aunt Rose was a true dynamo who'd worked building airplanes a long time ago. She told Rosie tales of the things she had done and goals she had checked off her list one by one. She gave a sad smile as she looked to the sky. "The only thrill left on my list is to fly. But time never lingers as long as it seems. I'll chalk that one up to an old lady's dreams." That night, as Rosie lay wide awake in bed, a daring idea crept into her head. Could she build a gizmo to help her aunt fly? She looked at the cheese hat and said, "No, not I." But questions are tricky and some hold on tight, and this one kept Rosie awake through the night. So when dawn approached and red streaks lit the sky, young Rosie knew just how to make her aunt fly. She worked and she worked till the day was half done, then hauled her cheese copter out onto the lawn to give her invention a test just to see the ridiculous flop it might turn out to be. Strapped into the cockpit, she flapped on the switch. The Helico cheesecopter sputtered and twitched. It floated a moment and whirled round and round, and then froze for a hot heartbeat, then crashed to the ground. And Rosie heard laughter and turned around to see the old woman laughing and slapping her knee. She laughed till she wheezed and her eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who thought, "Oh no, never, not ever again will I try to build something to sputter or spin, or build with a lever, a switch, or a gear, and never will I be a great engineer." She turned round to leave, but then great great Aunt Rose grabbed hold of young Rosie and pulled her in close, and hugged her and kissed her and started to cry. "You did it! Hooray! It's the perfect first try." The great flop is over. It's time for the next. Young Rosie was baffled, embarrassed, perplexed. But I failed, said dear Rosie. It's just made of trash. Didn't you see it? The cheese copter crashed. Yes, said her great aunt. It crashed, that's true. But first, it did just what it needed to do. Before it crashed, Rosie, before that, it flew. Your brilliant first flop was a raging success. Come on, let's get busy and on to the next. She handed a notebook to Rosie Revere, who smiled at her aunt as it all became clear. Life might have its failures, but this was not it. The only true failure can come if you quit. They worked till the sun sneaked away to its bed, and Rose tied her headscarf around Rosie's head and sent her to sleep with smile year to year to dream of bold dreams of a great engineer. At Blue River Creek, all the kids in grade 2 built gizmos and gadgets and doohickeys too. With each perfect failure, they all stand and cheer, but none quite as proudly as Rosie Revere. And that's the end of the book. I love that book, and I hope you guys did too. If you like reading about young kids who have grand ideas and great goals, here are some other books that you might really enjoy. There's a book called Ada Twist, a Scientist, and Iggy Peg Architect. And there are also the same books, but in chapter book format. So if you are a reader, maybe you're a little bit older and wants to find out more about Rosie Revere's adventures in inventing, you might want to check out these chapter books. They're in the Epic app. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope you'll join me again next time we have a virtual story time. Until then, stay safe and healthy at home, and I'll see you later. Bye. Happy reading.